Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be having a look at the cauliflower in chili butter recipe. This one is so delicious. Well, I mean they're all delicious, but this one is really great. It's so easy, it's so simple, and it's so quick. You can prep it in about 10 minutes, and then you just drop it in the oven for 50. Turn it once or twice and baste it, and that's it. It's so simple, it's so quick and so easy, like I said. It's fantastic for dinner party food because you can just prep it, stick it in the oven, and go and enjoy yourself. Another thing that's really great about it is it's veggie. I think it's nice to mix up between eating meat and veggies. I do think that sometimes we do eat too much meat, and so whether you're a meat eater or not, it's just fantastic. I hope you guys enjoy cooking it, and I hope you enjoy the video. So let's get on with it. Welcome back. So on with the cauliflower. First thing that we want to do is you take your cauliflower and we're going to trim the leaves off. Not the whole way, but until you've got about 4 centimeters or something left on the bottom. I'll give the camera a bit of a better view once I've got all the leaves off, but for now I'll just chop these off. So as I said, this is a super fast, super easy thing to make. Should take me about 10 minutes, we'll see whether or not that's true. Hoping I don't fall into the same category as Jamie Oliver, where one of his 15-minute meals ends up taking you an hour. So yeah, just be rough with it. You don't need to be particularly accurate with anything. Just as long as it's all kind of roughly down to these base bits. As I said, you don't want to take the whole thing off. The recipe I'm doing today is for 2 rather than for 4 on the, as it says on the website recipe. Just because I'm only cooking this for myself, there's no one here at the moment. So what would be the point in cooking it for 4? Obviously, with any recipe, if you're cooking it, if it's for 4 and it's for 6, then you just divide the recipe by 2 and then add what you've got to the actual recipe, and that's how you get it for 6, or similarly for 2 people. I never know how people struggle to understand how to adapt a recipe. So we slice them in half, as you can see here. We've got a little bit of the leaf on. Let me just take that off. But if you've got about that much on, then that's fine. That's what we're looking for. So half and then half again. I love cauliflowers. The great thing about cauliflowers is that they take on the taste of whatever you put in them so incredibly well, because I don't particularly think they taste of that much anyway. So with this recipe, all the different spices that we're going to put in really get sucked into the cauliflower, and that's what the butter's for. The butter and the oil help everything to just penetrate into the cauliflower. Penetrate is a great word. So now what we want to do is we will our oven onto 180 degrees fan. Put the kettle on to boil. And all we're going to do is we're just going to cook these cauliflowers in salted water for a minute or 2. You don't want to, we're not trying to cook them, we're just trying to par cook them, so when they come out of the oven they come out softer. There's no risk of there being any crunch or anything. So just get the hot water in there. It doesn't have to completely cover everything. just as long as you've roughly got it covered, because the steam is going to cook it anyway. So salt, generous amount of salt in there. We stick this on a medium heat for a few minutes. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a shake just to make sure that all the salt's in the water and incorporate. I mean, you are meant to use a pot, a lid that's actually smaller than the pan itself, but I haven't actually got one, and it wouldn't make a difference anyway because these cauliflowers are so large that all I'm going to do is just flip them halfway. If you have got a lid that's smaller, then do that. That's ideally what you want to do. But if you haven't, then just do this. Cook them for a minute, lid on, halfway through, flip them, minute, done. And that's all we need to do. So whilst that cooks, I'm just going to move these a bit later. What we want to do is we take our onion, skin on, leave the skin on, and we go right through the middle, and we're going to chop it into eighths. So quarter, and then through the middle of the quarter again. You always want to be trying to go through the root of the onion, just because it holds the onion together. You never want to get rid of the root of the onion when you're chopping it, just because, like I said, it holds the whole thing together. So, same with the other one, half, then half again. I reckon we could that didn't go straight through, but that's fine. There's no need to panic or anything. So I'm just gonna move the cauliflower around roughly, trying to get the bits which haven't been exposed to the water in there. And if you're doing this, then maybe use a fork or something. I'm just using my hands because I'm lazy and I like using my hands when I cook. So I'm probably going to do that for, well, just because the water's not boiling or anything, and there's no steam coming up, I'm probably going to do that for 2 minutes. So what we're going to do now whilst that cooks is we're just going to do our chili butter. So we've got to do for this, we take, first thing we're going to do is the first thing we're going to do is melt our butter down a bit. So I think the recipe calls for about 120 grams of butter. We are going to do about, I'd say this is probably about 80 grams, so, well, actually no, it's probably about 120, so I'm going to do about that much. Be generous with butter, it's delicious. And it makes anything better that you put it with, so there's no point in using it or being mean with your butter. Maybe so I mean, save that for the new year, but for now we're in the Christmas time. You might as well just be generous with your butter. So we've got our butter there. I'm just going to move these cauliflowers over again, using a fork this time just because it's actually getting quite hot, the water. So just trying to get everything as evenly done as possible. So I'm going to leave that for another 30 seconds and then take that out. So take your butter, we just want to melt it gently. You don't want to melt it so it's like a, liquid. You just want it kind of halfway there. Right, so these are going to be done any minute now. keep an eye on our butter because we don't want to overdo that at all. So, what we're going to do with that is we're going to take our rose harissa. Our rose harissa is dry, so it's powdered, unlike the Bella Zoo ones that you get at the supermarket. The way that you turn it into a wet rub is by just adding some olive oil and a little bit of tomato puree. So what we're going to do, 2 tablespoons of our rose harissa. Olive oil. It says 60 ml, so usually you'd want to do about 3 tablespoons of olive oil with the rose harissa, and then we're going to do 2 teaspoons of tomato paste, 1, 2, and then I'm just going to give that a bit of a mix. There's a lot more to go into this paste. These can come off now, so just drain them. So if you're not confident doing this, then just take a colander and drain them off like that, but I find it's quite easy. It's just use the lid as a draining tool. Even though you don't get as much out, you get the majority of it. So I know this doesn't look particularly appetizing at the moment, but trust me, it is one of the most delicious things once it melts over the cauliflower. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take a teaspoon. I'm going to do a teaspoon of Aleppo chili flakes, maybe half a teaspoon actually, half a teaspoon of Urfa chili flakes, half a teaspoon of Cayenne pepper, and our Cayenne pepper is very, very hot, so use it, don't overuse it, and then we're going to do probably a teaspoon of paprika. Mix it again. And that's turning into a really, really lovely paste. Well, not quite paste, but right, so then what we want to do is we're going to put some chopped garlic in there. So, this is quite a big bowl. The recipe calls for 3 cloves. I'm just going to do this one. So, crush it with the back of your knife gently. The skin will just peel off nice and easily. And then just slice. Now, a tip for those of you that don't like if you don't like the kind of pungent flavour of garlic, lemon juice counteracts that, so it takes out all the pungency. Garlic has this chemical in it called allicin, which, once it's been chopped like this, is released. Lemon juice counteracts that chemical, so it takes off that garlicky pungency. But you keep the wonderful flavour of garlic in, so I'm going to put a bit of lemon juice in there anyway, just because I like lemon juice and it's really important to get acidity in your dishes. But, if you love garlic, then don't worry. So get that garlic in there. As you saw, it was pretty roughly chopped. In, take a lemon. Going to do a wedge of lemon in there. It doesn't need to be a lot. Lovely. Just give it a mix. That's starting to look incredibly tasty. So, I'm just going to have a little taste. It's wonderful. The combination of the chili flakes and the harissa, the paprika and the cayenne pepper is just so great. Because it's hot, but it's not too hot. It's not spicy, but it's got a nice initial kick to it. So what we want to do now is we're going to take a baking tray. Ideally one that's been in the oven. Some foil or ideally baking paper. Don't turn your kettle on, there's no need for that. So, I'm going to take a little sheet of this. Get your cauliflower onto the baking tray. Lovely. And you know, if you haven't used a colander, you'll be able to feel it's a little bit damp, but that's fine. I'm just gonna... so take your onions, just jot them around roughly. Perfect. Then we also take chili. If you're feeling very lazy or you're a complete psychopath, then you don't need to worry about taking the seeds out. But if you are not big with, you know, if you don't want a dish to be completely overpowered with heat, then take the seeds out, because you know they're not so bad once you've cooked them, but I just don't see the point in risking it. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop it into bits of 6. You know, the recipe says to do it differently, but I'm just kind of improvising. So take your paste. I'm going to add a tiny bit more olive oil into this just to loosen it a bit. And just get it all over your cauliflowers, your onions. Because obviously what's going to happen is that we didn't completely melt the butter, but the butter is going to melt under the heat of the oven. So I want to get as much of this out as possible, so I'm just going to move to a spoon. Just try and get it evenly distributed. Obviously if you don't like onion skins, then take the skins out, but I like the skins, I like the aesthetic of them. Then we just want to massage this in. Get everything coated. Again, don't have to be overly precise or anything. Just make sure that everything is roughly coated. And the cauliflower's all well coated. Roughly what we want it to look like. Everything's pretty well covered. Just redistribute the onions. Now we just put this in the oven for half an hour, and then when we come back I'll show me turning it, but that's basically it. It's really that easy. I know sorry, my camera just cut out there again. It cuts out every 20 minutes, which is incredibly irritating. But yeah, so that's it. I know it wasn't 10 minutes, it was about 18 minutes, but if you're doing this by yourself and you're not talking to a camera and you've got a recipe in front of you, or you've got this, then I think you should be able to do it in 10, maybe 15 if I'm being completely honest with you. But you know, every chef or every TV chef seems to say that something is going to take 5 minutes and then it ends up taking half an hour. Anyway, I will see you guys in a bit. So the cauliflower has been in the oven for about 25 minutes now, half an hour. I'm just taking it out to show you guys what it's like at this stage of the cooking. So you can see that it's started taking on the colours of the spices. The butter mixture is now melted, which is why we keep basting it. It's really important that you keep basting it through, because you rotate the flavours and you get more flavour through the cauliflower. So I'm just going to do that for you guys now. Just pop this here so you have a better view of what I'm doing, and maybe you'll catch me. Actually, I don't think you will with the GoPro on my head, because I look like a complete idiot, but fortunately none of you have to see that. So we just get a spoon and just drizzle it over. So you can see, yeah, just do that. It's not complex at all. Just move everything around, baste it up. If you don't feel like you've got enough kind of sauce, then what you can do, which is what I'm probably going to do, is just add a drop more olive oil. But you know, so as you can see, the onion skins are starting to fall off now. Means they're doing pretty well. And we just want to, you can do this with your hands if you like. I'm just going to do it with a fork. Just get everything turned around, roll it over, get the backs of the cauliflower all rubbed in there, and the onions, give them a turn as well. Yeah, lovely. So you can see what turning the cauliflower does for it. Just make sure that everything is getting, you know, enough exposure to the lovely mix that we've made, because it would be a shame if it didn't. So what I'm going to do is, I've got the leftovers in this bowl. I'm just going to add a drop more olive oil, maybe 2 tablespoons. See, I'm only doing this because I don't feel like there's enough sauce on there, and I also just want to get everything from this bowl used up, because otherwise it's just a waste of flavouring really. So once you've got that, just back over, just get a nice even distribution over all the cauliflowers. Making sure you just keep basting it, and then this is going to go back in the oven for another 10-20 minutes, and then we'll take it out. We do just turn the heat back down to 170 now, and yes, so back in they go. Smelling so delicious though. It's looking lovely. So again, well, I'm just going to take this because it's hot. Tilt, and everything will just come to the bottom. Got all those wonderful juices collecting, and then just get them back over the cauliflower. And then I'm probably going to put this in for one final time for another 5 or 10 minutes, see how it's done, and then yeah, we'll be able to see the finished product. Again, just give everything a flip, get all those onions, take out that butter, yummy. Another flip. Beautiful. Look at this, smelling so good. Just get this last onion. He's been a bit left out, so we'll pop him right in the middle. Christmas is a time for caring, even for your onions. Not that I don't care about my onions all year round, because an onion is not just for Christmas. Cringe. Okay, so back in the oven, another 5-10 minutes, probably another 10 we'll say. We just want to get these a bit crisper, a bit more brown, and then we'll be ready to go. So I'll see you guys then. Alright, so we have now had it in for about 50 minutes. We've basted it a few times, and this is what, well, I'll show you once it's out of the oven, but it's looking and smelling incredible. And it's such a lovely thing to just get out and put in the middle of the table. It's not like you have to, you know, serve it one by one. It's great to just pop on the middle of the table, put it in a serving dish, and everyone can help themselves to some onions and a cauliflower bit and whatever. Just make sure that when you do, that you pour all of the juices back over it, because that's all flavour, it's all spice, and it's all deliciousness. So yeah, to those of you that have stuck around until the end, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to my extremely dry and monotonous voice. It's massively appreciated. But it is worth it, because this is completely delicious. So yeah, you just want to see some browning on the leaves, some browning on the top. The onion skins, a great indicator that it's ready is that the skins will be crispy, and that's what we're looking for. So yeah, thanks again, and I'll see you next time.